Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am alone in Finland. This is Eve the Vanguard. Jesus, I can't get words out today. But I thought I would go through this again. Just I've spent a fair chunk of time in this, sort of going through it. Genuinely, actually starting to enjoy it. Well, not starting to. I was enjoying it, but a little bit of time spent on it, sort of understanding the game loop, is something that I'm sort of finding quite relaxing, quite interesting, and I'm just going to go through a sort of rough overview of the game, what I think is good about it, what I sort of quickly dislike about it, and just try and put this out there as both a sort of thing for anybody who's wanted to try it out, a sort of anchor point of comparison for myself for what it changes into, because at the moment this is like an open test that's going on, so I'm curious the next time this comes up for testing what it will sort of look like, because I have noticed some changes between this and the previous version. I've actually noticed a couple of little changes and bug fixes as we've been going along, so I'm just sort of putting this out there as a little bit of a note, and this is still available. This will still be available for a few days, so if you have an EVE Online client, doesn't matter if it's Alpha or Omega, I don't think, you should be able to get onto it and give it a little bit of a playtest and have a little bit of a look. And if you're completing expeditions and things, there's a little link into your EVE account as well. So definitely something that is worth looking at. So with that all being said, here is the basic game loop. So when you start into the game, it'll ask you to log in. Also, whenever you finish any expeditions you extract from a planet, it will ask you to sort of jump back in again, which is one of my first points. Is that seems particularly stupid that you've left the planet and then it says, oh, click on this name again. Just leave it open, just come back to this screen. Also, and I'm sure that this is a placeholder, but fuck my life, it's annoying, this music, I'll just let it play for a second. This is a short loop. It is I don't know, 6, 8, 10 seconds long, and it just keeps looping permanently, and there is no way to turn this off in the settings. I would say that that is a requirement in any game, because I personally have tinnitus in one of my ears, and this bugs the life out of me, especially if I'm like tabbing off to do something else, or if you are just going through any of the buttons here. As you are going through them, it never stops. So if you're in industry and you're trying to do something, you're trying to search for something and figure it out, and you've just got this constant tick, 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 tick in the back of your head, yeah, fix that. At least let us turn it off. I'm not saying add more stuff, just always give that ability to turn off a sound effect, some noise or something that's going on in the background. So with that being said, the game loop is nice and simple. You have essentially 3 overlapping game loops. The first, the primary one, is the expeditions. So you go in here and you will be given sort of the order of something. You can usually choose between 1 or 2, as you just saw there. So you've got an order without faith, corporate warfare, blah, blah, blah. These are just who you are working for, essentially. And then it says medium, hard, medium. At the moment, the difficulty levels are sort of all over the place, because it's a player versus player environment, not necessarily player versus player. And I'll show that in some of the clips. But at the same time, it's difficult to scale what it is, and maybe there are some more entities coming along, but with the correct placement and things like that, it's easy enough to sort of deal with them. At the moment, the AI, the pathfinding and things like that and the entities is fairly simplistic, so it's sort of easy enough to stack them up, but at the same time you can get surprised and overwhelmed. So you pick your one, whichever one you do, and then from here you will hit accept, and then you will click on an individual one. So it starts here, you will click on one of these 2, and it will path along, and you choose a single one. So for instance, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and at the end of all 6 you will get this. So you will get rewards for doing the things that you're doing, and you will get a reward at the end that is sort of overriding for everything. Now, after your expeditions, each particular thing will have a location. So for instance, here it says you must complete resource retrieval contracts within Aftermath. Here it says sabotage contracts in Maelstrom. Over here we have complete contraband operations, but it doesn't say where, so in other words you can pick where you want to deploy to. And then you've got various different things, mining rights, salvage, etc. So what would happen after this? you would be looking at your fitting. If you don't take anything, you are given a standard unmodified reaver, which is enough to do some of the lower level contracts in general. You can do the higher level ones with it as well. You'll just be like a little bit more damage over time. These things, if you build your own or you get your own, you will be able to fit it out with mods. I am not exactly sure about the stacking on them. I just threw in a whole load to see. The reaver allows you two different sort of mod selections, so you get two different versions of the weapon. You can carry two weapons, and then you can take stuff with you. I haven't actually taken all of this ammunition with me. This is ammunition that has been picked up from other places and other players. You can also build your stuff. So for instance, if you've got blueprints here, oh, there we go, I've got some things that had already been built, and I have to ditch some stuff for it because my inventory's full. But you can build blueprints. You got them one at a time. You will need the resources for them. For the love of Google wax, give me somewhere I can shove this. There we go. Confirm. At the current moment, you have a very small inventory of stuff, so you can build stuff, you can make it, etc, etc. This is a known recipe, so this is one that you have already. This was a reward for one of the expeditions I went through, so I can just now crank out lancers without having to get more blueprints. But you do require things to create it. So for instance, you need a gyro accelerator, prismouth, and ingspar. Most of these things aren't a problem. However, there are some recipes that call for mined resources, and they can be a bit of a problem to find. But once you've got everything set up, you've got it what you want to take down to the thing, or you're just completely empty and you're going to run with the default weapons, you can then pick your place. So you have various different planets at the moment. They should be more as it's coming through, and then I believe the eventual idea for it is that you will be deploying to specific areas, specific planets within particular clusters, and this sort of runs the invocation within EVE, or the exchange within EVE Online. But you will essentially deploy to whichever place you pick, or if you haven't chosen an expedition, you aren't running anything, you might just deploy to a place and just want to run missions on the actual thing. So at the moment, I haven't selected an expedition. I could just straight down deploy, nice and simply, go to wherever I want to be, and job's done. I can run contracts on there. So if I show what's going on down on the actual settings, we have a nice and simple little method where we hit deploy. Then you've got the choice to deploy with a squad or in solo. So far I have done solo. That does not mean you're working on your own. There are several things where players will cooperate. You will be able to talk to each other, you will be able to sort of work with each other, or you just do the fanciful everybody knows a little jump to show that you're friendly. I've just come off of a mission. I kept getting downed by the same guy, but at the same time he was picking me back up, and I just don't really understand what the hell was going on. In the end I went separate ways. It wasn't a particularly big problem. But it does cost a little bit of biomass to revive people, but that's not a big thing. I just wish I knew what was going on, really. So, this is your standard deploy. You slam down onto a planet and you'll be able to see around. Once in a while, you will land where you are under immediate threat of fire. A little turret over there. So there are little turrets and things that you can worry about, but if we pop into the buy menus, if we have G, you can create things, so you can build ammo, equipment, etc. I'm going to immediately hit an extraction beacon. Because I've got materials on me from the last time, that's why I'm able to build stuff straight away. And I'm putting some other things in just for giggles. If you hit X, you'll be able to bring up the contract log. So you've got a few different things here: salvage contract, sabotage contract, resource retrieval contract, and you will get possible payments. You might get a little bit less if you haven't fully completed the contract, but there are a few things there. You have lovely little things over here, which are the clone bays. So you can put in some biomass and you'll be able to get an additional clone. Normally you start with 2 when you come down to a planet, and from the 2 you will be able to buy an additional one, which is essentially an additional respawn. At the moment I've got my other thing is a mining I just realised as I was doing that, something else is going on. You've got a mining laser. There we go. That's the one I was searching for. And you'll be able to get resources from this. Some resources, like the amberglass you see me picking up there, are planet specific. At the moment, you will get a couple of bugs here and there. I've had one where stuff won't pop out. That's just the nature of an alpha. Remember, it's being tested at the moment. And if you get any bugs, feedback. I believe there's Discord integration in this. I myself just don't use Discord. There we have another player. Huh? Got to scare the absolute shit out of him. So we got two things incoming. He didn't mind. So, popping some stuff there. Little bits of resources. Not a big issue. More ammo. Because if you have a Reaver, then you will always have ammo. Tab brings up your temporary map. M brings up your full map. And your scroll wheel will switch between the two methods on your gun. So as you can see here, it says beta. You can switch to alpha, which are the two different sort of chip setups I set there before. If I just hop over here and have a look, there is a gentleman or something there that was shooting. I should be able to head around here and kill it, no matter what it was. Unless it's dead already, which it looks like it is. So that's your main sort of introduction to it. There are some things, which is one of the things that's going on here. There are some missions that will sort of be standard. They will automatically deploy. And everybody on your particular server, world, planet, etc. will be able to do them. And then there are some that are personal and other people won't be able to sort of mess with. What was that? What was shooting me? Right, there we go. Let me just pop that first. As you can see, you do have a shield as standard. Once your shield is knocked down, you get knocked into biomass. This is actually a burst fire mode weapon. It's been modified to be burst fire. But if you keep tapping, it sort of fires in automatic. So it's a useful one. And for me, the burst one actually reduces your recoil quite severely. So that's why I use it. Then I'm trying to look for one more thing. As you may notice, these little boxes that crop up, let's go and find one. You do have little coffins that you can recover. They do come up as part of missions. However, you can just do them on your own. So you'll see these little coffins. You bring out your laser weapon, pop the two tops off, hit E, and then it'll start descrambling. So it'll take a little bit of time for this to go through. There is a current bug where if you do two of them, it doesn't seem to, you aren't able to access them again. I've noticed this every time I've done two of them without fail. However, if you do three or more at the same time, it doesn't seem to be there. So not quite sure what it is, have reported it. But just be aware of that. If you see two side by side, let one happen, then do the other one. So as part of a mission, this could be useful, but just on their own, this will get you some funding. So if you see in the top right hand corner, you can see banked and carried. So that is how much of the credits that you have in the bank that will finish when you finish. As you can see here, I can't get access. There we go. It's very finicky with the angle for the access at the moment. I've seen this in a few of them. So I'm just trying to get to, there we go. So 5226. And that's all that happens. I've got 45 banked credits. So those credits, no matter how I extract from this place, I will have when I get back. And then, as you can see here, we've got, that's what I'm looking for, we've got points of interest that will be marked. You've got the full sort of rough shape. So this is an event that people can do. These are where all the little jettison coffins are. We have some loot sites kicking about where you can grab some stuff. And it's all sort of general and out there. It's fairly easy to sort of navigate. The problem is with the knowing about the expeditions and then knowing about the missions. So for instance, when you go into missions, oh, some baddies there. If I go into missions here, some of them are salvage contracts, some of them are for specific factions, and it will say in the top what the factions are. So for instance, you might have a pirate and an empire faction on a particular thing, but at the same time you will have an expedition that only uses one of them. So you might have an expedition that only wants things from a pirate faction. So getting the ones from the other side are useless to completing the expedition. It's just, if you skim over it, it is a very sort of not graphically heavy, but graphically clustered game. There we go. I'll just take some of this stuff. So these little blue spots here at the moment are the banks. So if I hit that, then anything of real value gets knocked off from me. In my inventory I've still got my ammo, I've still got some utilities, and then some things that can be used to craft things here. So I can take them back with me afterwards and use them, or I can use them just now as part of the general crafting menu. So for instance, if I wanted to craft proximity mines or frag grenades, they would be useful. And then once you've done what you're doing, you've got the G menu. Oh, not the G menu, the F menu, so press and hold. That's where you'll get your deployable shield, your frag grenades, things like this. And you can just click the extraction beacon, plonk one down, and you wait for it. The deployable shields and the motion detectors are all time specific as well, so when you put them down they last for about 4 to 5 seconds. I'm not sure at the moment if there's ways to extend that, but you might want to plonk one down when shit hits the fan, essentially. They do allow entities to cross into them, so once they're inside the shield they will be able to shoot you, but as long as they're outside the shield they will be fine, and they are just a little area of effect bubble. So that's nice and simple. This is how we come back. If you die so that you lose all your clones, you will lose your weapons. However, if you die so that you lose some of your clones, every time you respawn, you will respawn with the weapons you went in with. So you will be able to bring them back, providing you still have a clone left over. You're still sort of existing with one live clone. So there is sort of incentivization to extract as opposed to just die, because you bring your stuff back with you, even if you've deposited the valuable stuff. So this is the essence of the game. You go down, you hit your targets, you come back. You extract your missions, you come back. Sometimes you will get a server, when you go into a particular planet, you will get it so that there is a time limit that comes up on the screen, and I do think for the people that are making this, they need to make that far more visible, because it comes up as time to clone death. And that sort of means when the entire server that you're on is actually about to reset. But you can go down, and in some cases I've been on a planet just doing mission after mission for an hour, just running around doing random stuff. So you can gather, you can mine, you can do whatever missions come up and just have a general laugh with it. So it isn't a case of you're constantly doing short things, or you need to be down there doing short things. But that being said as well, if you're running through the expeditions, if it's giving you short little things, you can drop in, do that one thing and jump out, and just keep cycling that way so that you blast through them. It has just taken me, I've just done an expedition this morning, so I did one of these from start all the way through, and it took me about 2.5 hours to get everything done, and that was including one mistake that set me back about maybe 20 minutes, because I jumped in, I did the mission, but I didn't see what faction I was doing it for, so I did it for the wrong faction. So I hope that's kind of helpful for what's going on. I thought that would be a little bit of an interesting update to it. I think this is coming along quite nicely. I do have concerns about it. My concerns are basically due to how much progress versus the size of the dev team. But that is personal worry. It's not even criticism, because I don't know the internal structure. I know it's a sort of separate development team within CCP that are working on this jazz. But this is also what you call it. an Unreal Engine project, so it's not on one of CCP's own game engines, which I thought personally would have sped up a bit of development process. I am apologising to the devs for saying that. It's just I am aware of that, and in my head that goes, hold on, shouldn't there have been more progress if a lot of stuff exists on the game engine already? Now, with that being said, the reason I wanted to voice that just now is because if I've thought about it, then other people have thought about it. So it's something to be aware of with progress going on. Because of likes of skinning of things is not a particularly... It's not a quick process, but it's not a slow process either. It's something where you can knock out things fairly rapidly. So the amount of visual progress between one update and the next update is something that I think should be paid more attention to, just in general, from the development team. I know that sounds like a sucky thing to say, but I just want good attention to come towards the game, because at the moment, looking at this, I think this is going in a quite nice way. I've just remembered the game that I was thinking about, which was Helldivers. If you are somebody who is comparing this to Helldivers, remember Dust, the original one, predated Helldivers by quite a bit of a way. So this idea has been kicking around in CCP in various different ways. It just so happens it got caught up in the politics within management, and Dust went PlayStation exclusive, which was, I think everybody can sort of admit that it was a phenomenally fucking stupid idea to do. There were those of us that were calling it at the time, because if your player base, if your fan base is on one setup, then you don't really want to alienate them by making your game exclusive to another setup, even if that kicks a bit of money towards you. Because some people, and I am this kind of person, once you release it on that other setup, which they never actually did, but if you make something PlayStation exclusive and then after 6 months you bring it onto PC, in some cases they might just go, no, you were a PC gaming company and you took money to hide it from us. So now I'm not going to buy that product, or I'm not going to buy that product until it's reduced. And this is something I've got going on with PlayStation. PlayStation releases of their games. I will wait until they are massively reduced for the vast majority of them. Hideo Kojima is a different thing, because I love the story. And I know I'm an absolute hypocrite for saying that. It's just one of those things. But a lot of what comes out of PlayStation, because of the nature of that company, I will wait until it is £5 before I buy it. So I won't support the development. I will just kick a little bit of money in that covers the costs after a while. But that's something to be aware of in general. And CCP has first-hand sort of knowledge of this. They had to get rid of over 100 staff because of the whole Dust fiasco. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. But, yep, with all that being said, this is looking fun. I'm quite sort of excited to see how it is, and I do think it's a very good idea, if you are a gaming company, to look at every which way that your gamers interact. Eve Frontier is definitely an interesting way for people who like Eve but want it more hardcore. I'm hoping there's a market for that, just because I want to see CCP succeed. For me, it's not exactly an interesting game because of the way that it resets over time. I'm not somebody that's a big fan of that, although I am a Dust player, so a Rust player. So that's something that comes in where I can see the appeal to it, and I hope that the appeal is there. But it's not something for me in this particular instance. But this is definitely something that will satisfy the PvP urge. I would like to see a little bit faster movement speed. Maybe that could be mods to the suit or things like that. But yeah, definitely something that's interesting. So with all of that being said, as per usual, links down in the doobly-doo for anything that's interesting. You can get cheaper Plex and stuff like that if you're going through Dragon Marquee. You can get your million free skill points. My sort of Patreon's there, and Dusty and Unused, and there's coffee and all of that jazz. I will also be doing some more streams going on. I'm trying to do a fair few of them, and I've got a bit of time to be able to do them at the moment, and especially going through the Christmas period, my work shies out. So there will be stuff like that. I'm going to make a point going forward. I noticed that somebody said that there was adverts jumping up on my streams. I didn't see that setting. From now on, I'm going to make sure that all of the streams are ad-free At least on YouTube. I don't know what the hell's going on Twitch. I don't get any money from putting a stream up on Twitch. That's why I sort of tend to do it on YouTube. But yeah, my sort of intention is just to keep everything on YouTube in general. I might flick on the Twitch thing because it's just an extra button, but they will be ad free when I'm doing that. The idea is that it's just if somebody wants to chat or communicate or stuff like that, that's what that is. So thank you very much. Bye.